Hello everybody, and welcome back to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. And it is somewhere around Sunday in the first part of July. I'm not sure of the day. It's probably like the 7th or something. Look it up on the calendar. It's the weekend of the 4th of July. All right, enough joking. We're looking at, I put some drip trim up on the top up there, got that in today. And the winds right now are gusting at about 22 miles an hour. I had to get off the roof as quick as possible because it was getting a little hairy up there, but you can see everything is closed in. And I got my my seam nailers all in place. These are the first ones that start on the first sheet, then they go rotate back and forth all the way down. And everything is nailed down on the roof. So it's nice and sturdy up there. You can run around and jump up and down, and very little flexing, if any. All right. So we got through this today. And if the weather is permissible, tomorrow I'm going to start trimming in the door area here. And I will have to pick up a either a 4x6x10 or a 6x6x10, which will be my header above the door here. And that's going to go up pretty much right up to the last rafter right here. That's the low side. And then I'll level it across. And that's going to be as high as I want my door, so that I have plenty of clearance when I go in with the van, because I got to also consider that the thickness of the lift-up door, and then there's space between that because of the hardware and the hinges. So I've got to allow for all of that to make sure I have enough clearance to get my van in there. And then I can hide from people and they don't know I'm here. Yesterday I had some tourists come through. They came down my road, all the way down, slowed down at the driveway, went all the way out to the next corner. They saw all the no trespassing signs, but they decided they're going to get out over there and take pictures anyway. You know, some people, you never know. Anyway, they ended up going down, and then they crossed the main road coming in, and the 20 acres of my 20 acres goes to the other side of that road. And there's more signs over there that say no trespassing. They went over there and took pictures. Wonderful people. And you know, one guy's walking around with his jacket over his head because it was sunny out, so forth and so on. What a bunch of jerks. I thought about going down there and hassling them, and then I just said, you know what? Maybe they'll just go away. And they finally did. But it held me up. I didn't get to go to the store and pick up materials and stuff for at least an extra hour and a half because of them hanging around the area. I wanted to make sure I kept an eye on what they were doing. But I did save the video just in case from the video cameras. All right. Next. I'm going to have to step inside a minute because I made some notes today. I've been getting a lot of comments and questions, and I don't want to miss anything. So let's see. There's my little note right there. All right. Get outside here. Okay, number one on the list. Oh yeah, I did mention, I added it on to the comment section after the last video. But if you're going to work on your equipment and you need to disconnect the solar panels from the equipment so that you can work on them, remember to cover your solar panels. Don't disconnect them or connect them under load. You can damage your equipment doing that. There are diodes in these panels that keep the electricity from flowing back and discharging to them at nighttime after the sun sets. And those diodes are kind of delicate. They can blow. You also have a lot of your controllers have diodes in them. You don't want to be jolting those diodes because they're very delicate. All right. So remember always cover your panels or do it after the sun sets if you're going to connect or disconnect your panels from your system. And you should always make sure your battery is still hooked up first and your battery is disconnected last if you have to take that off the system too. All right, on the PMA blades, you can see that thing is spinning up there because we got wind, and it looks slow in the video here. That's 60 frames per second, but that thing is really humming up there. It's moving. So if you have to work on that unit, you want to do that on a calm day. And the first thing you do when you get up there, just so you're not caught by surprise, is you're going to tie a rope around the blades and tie it off to your mast. Just in case a wind or a gust comes up, that thing doesn't turn, because those blades are sharp. They could cut you, they could kill you. And you don't want electricity coming out of that in an AC current coming off of that thing. You're working on the wires. You get a good jolt up there, it'll knock you down off your ladder. Okay, so tie off your PMA blades if you're going to work on the PMA. Don't take a chance. Don't do it on windy days like right now. I wouldn't even think about going up there. Try to do that, set that up for a calm day. And on your wires coming down from your PMA, you don't ever want to disconnect one wire and say, well, I'll just disconnect one wire and that'll break the circuit so I won't get jolted. You can burn out your stator on your PMA. You don't want to do that. Don't ever disconnect one wire. You got to keep your eye on these things. If you blow a fuse on one wire, you'll also have a problem, because that's the same thing as disconnecting one wire. That's on the AC. On a DC unit, you only have a positive, negative coming in. They go straight to the battery. So you want to put on those, you want to put a cutoff switch or a breaker or something like that, so that you can disconnect that power to your system if you have to. But it's kind of hairy, because when you don't want to ever do that while the thing is under load. Okay, same thing with your panels. Okay, what are controllers and dump loads for? Okay, what a controller does, I mentioned this before, it takes the power coming in from your solar panels, and that's higher than what your batteries are rated for. So it's too much electricity coming in. So what the controller does is it filters everything out of that, controls it, and puts it into your batteries. Now PMAs pulse that power in. They go on and off, on and off, on and off. Where an MPPT gives you constant flow directly to your batteries. That's why MPPTs are rated better than PWMs. So you want to make sure that you do that. Now, these green hybrid systems, they're junk. Don't go with a hybrid system. You see, hybrid systems allow you to connect the PMAs in. Well, it doesn't make sense. You got AC power and you got DC power going into one unit and then coming out as DC power to your batteries. And they're in the same size control boxes as a regular solar controller. So just don't go with that stuff. It's ridiculous. If you're going to go with an AC PMA, go with a rectifier. Okay, the rectifier is your best choice. If you're going with a DC, you don't need a rectifier. You'll only have two wires coming in, a positive and a negative, from your permanent magnet generator, not alternator, and those go directly to your battery banks. Okay? All right. Now, that's what I was talking about, was direct connect versus controlled, and a dump load. Now, these things claim to have the dump load built into them, so you can hook your PMAs in and dump the load if you have to right through the controller. Don't work. It's ridiculous. Forget it. Stay away from those things. Set it up this way if you're going with a PMA. PMG, like I said, direct connect to the batteries. You don't need that system, but at least get one of these meters These are high precision watt meters and power analyzers. And right now I'm getting like 240, 270, 327, 383, 400 watts on some of the gusts coming in right now. So this PMA system works great. That's extra power that I can use, and I really do like it. Okay, let's see next. Panel angles. Well, that's going to be hard to show you how to do that, but we'll try it here. Okay, your panel angles will actually give you better input if you have them correctly angled towards the sun. And the way you want to do that is midday, if they're going to be stationary. Midday, you want to take an item, you can drive a pole in the ground or whatever, but something that will stand vertical. Okay, I just use my sledgehammer here. Something that stands vertical, directly straighten up in the sky. Now, to get the best power out of your panels, that'll tell you which way to point your panels. Now, if you go midday, and when I mean midday, I don't mean 12 o'clock. Don't go by the clock. You got to go by how many hours in the day you have sunlight. So like right now, we go from 6 a.m. to 2000 hours, and that's military time. I know that confuses some people. Military time is simple, very simple. All you do is add the number, after noon time, you add the number to the 12. So 1 o'clock, you add the 1 to the 12, that's 1300 hours. 2 to the 12 is 1400 hours. 6 to the 12 is 1800 hours. And then when you want to go back the other way, you just subtract the 12 from it, and that'll tell you the difference between military and standard time. Okay, but anyway, time now, it goes from 6 a.m. roughly until 2000 hours, so 2030 or something like that. So you got to figure that 6 to 20 is, let's see, that's going to be 14 hours of sunlight. So you want to go 7 hours in from the 6 a.m., which is 1300 hours, which would make it 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, you come out and set your pole straight up and down, and then you look at the shadow, where the shadow goes. Okay, now at this time of day, the sun has really gone down, is ready to set. So the proper angle to get the best out of my panels would be if I take a straight edge and I put it at the end of the shadow and lean it up against the top of the straight edge. The angle that that's pointing at is where my panel should be to get the best power of this time of day. Now during the daytime at 1 o'clock or so, if I came out here and I showed you, and I may be able to do that one of these times, I put this thing straight here, the shadow is only about, maybe 6 inches off this side of the sledgehammer. So if I put a straight edge onto that, it's going to be pointing almost straight up into the sky, like right about where those two clouds have a gap in it. And that's where I would want my panels pointing. And look where I've got them pointing. All right, so at this time of year, that's the angle I use. Now, as the winter settles in, the sun's going to be lower in the sky over there. So I'll change the tilt of those panels that way. Now I will getting a tracking system on these, and the tracking system will actually tilt the panels towards the eastern sky, pick up the sun in the morning, and it'll follow the sun up overhead and go down with the sun. So right now, those panels would all be pointing right at the sun, and I'd be getting the most power out of them that I could get. All right, so that's how you adjust panel angles. Simple thing, straight up and down, don't have any tilt in it, straight up and down on your straight edge, end of the shadow to the top of your straight edge, that's the angle you want to be pointing your panels at any given time during the day. If you're going to leave them in a stationary position, go to the midday time and use that same sequence, and then point your panels in that direction to get the most power during the day. okay? And that will give you access to the sun at the most for stationary panels. All right, extension cords and solar power, off-grid power. Stay away from extension cords unless you're using heavy-duty extension cords. Shorter the better, the heavier the better. 10 gauges is better than 12 gauge. A 10 gauge will carry more power with less voltage drop over the length of the wire. So you go make up a 20 foot long 10 gauge stranded with SO cord from Home Depot, and use that to plug your stuff in when you're using just an inverter to run a bunch of little items. You'll have the least amount of voltage drop through that cord, so you'll be able to work better. The longer that cord, the more voltage drop you're going to have. The skinnier that cord, the more voltage drop you're going to have. So you're going to plug in a 50-foot cord to your inverter, and you're putting out 120 volts at the start of the cord, but when you get down to the other end of it, you might only be putting out 95, 96 volts, and that's going to damage your equipment. So you don't want to do the stuff like that. You've got to avoid that stuff. All right, last on the list. I'm sorry, one of my recent videos, there was a problem with focus, and I thought it was because my hand got in front of it, and I use autofocus, and it sometimes goes blurry. But what it might have been was I noticed that I had dropped the phone in that video, and I hit it up against my body, and I got the lens dirty. So there was a smudge on the lens, and that might have been the problem. All right, weird weather. Started off cloudy like this, but calm. So I got the roof completed over there, and I got the trim on the back sides. I got the seam blocks in, and it was the day of rest, so I only worked 7 hours today. And right now, I'm gonna call this one a day. Don't forget, please give me a thumbs up down there. Don't forget to click share and share with friends, family, and whoever, your neighbors. Tell them quit watching TV, watch G Bear. All right, G Bear signing off.